Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. Usually when we look ahead to a highly anticipated sporting event, almost all of the oxygen in the room gets consumed by the athletes,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, we're always dissecting, the training camps, the historical rivalries, the highlight reels.
Right, the tactical matchups. But today, we are flipping the script entirely. I mean, imagine stepping onto a pristine pitch, surrounded by a stadium that is literally vibrating with the energy of tens of thousands of fans. But you aren't there to score tries.
No, definitely not.
You are there to enforce the laws of the game between two of the most physical, uncompromising teams on the planet in real time, with millions of people watching your every move.
It is an entirely different kind of pressure cooker. I mean, officiating at that level, it's just the ultimate test of decision-making under fire.
Oh, for sure.
You're managing aggression, interpreting complex laws in, like, a fraction of a second, and trying to facilitate a contest without becoming the center of attention.
Which is exactly the dynamic we are exploring today. We are delivering a completely fluff-free breakdown of the newly announced World Rugby match officials for the 2026 Springboks versus All Blacks Rugby's Greatest Rivalry Tour.
It's going to be massive.
It is. We're going to examine who is holding the whistle, why they were chosen, and how their specific officiating styles might actually dictate the outcome of this historic series. But before we get into the names and the gauntlet they're about to run, I need to remind you to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in description. You will want to stay completely looped in as this unprecedented tour kicks off.
Yeah, you really will, because setting the stage here, this isn't just your standard weekend test match calendar. Not even close.
No, it's huge.
Right, and that's what makes this specific officials announcement so compelling. We are looking at a schedule that serves as a throwback-style tour. It's a brilliant homage to the traditional sprawling rugby tours of the amateur era.
But completely modernized, right?
Exactly. Completely modernized. We aren't just talking about a couple of isolated test matches. This is an 8-match gauntlet.
Wow.
Yeah, it features 4 primary tests between the Springboks and the All Blacks, but interwoven with those, the All Blacks are playing 4 heavily anticipated matches against South African club sides.
Yeah.
And the whole journey kicks off on August 7th.
8 matches in that short of a window is a grueling stretch of rugby for anyone involved. I mean, we know the sheer scale of the tour now. But let's look at the select few who have actually been trusted to manage all that chaos on the pitch.
Yeah.
Who are the people handed the whistles for the defining matches?
So World Rugby has appointed a core quartet of test referees to take the main stage. For the test matches, the men in the middle will be Matthew Carley from England, Nika Amashukeli from Georgia, Angus Gardner from Australia, and Karl Dickson, also from England.
Okay.
These 4 are the primary adjudicators for those heavy-hitting international clashes, and will also be rotating duties to officiate the 4 club meetings against the Stormers, the Sharks, the Bulls, and the Lions.
I mean, just think about the mechanics of that job for a second. Being the referee for a Springboks versus All Blacks match is like trying to conduct a symphony orchestra where half the musicians are actively trying to sabotage the other half's instruments.
That is a very accurate way of putting it, yeah.
You have to establish dominance and clear communication instantly, or the breakdown just becomes a completely unmanageable mess. But looking at that specific list of names, something jumps out at me immediately.
Oh, what's that?
Well, this is the ultimate Southern Hemisphere clash, right? South Africa and New Zealand, the titans of the South. So why parachute in guys who spend their winters refereeing in the Premiership or the Six Nations?
Ah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, Carley, Amashukeli, and Dickson bring a heavy Northern Hemisphere influence. Doesn't that risk completely choking the free-flowing nature of a Southern clash? Northern referees are notoriously strict at the breakdown.
Well, that is the exact tension point right there. And it really highlights how World Rugby approaches neutrality in the modern game. If you look closely at the list, Angus Gardner from Australia is the only Super Rugby Pacific referee included in that main quartet.
Oh, wow. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, he is the sole representative of the Southern Hemisphere's premier club competition, taking a lead referee role in the tests.
So you're saying World Rugby is intentionally injecting a completely different regional perspective into the mix?
Precisely. Because when 2 teams know each other as intimately as the Springboks and All Blacks do, they develop these very specific patterns and habits. They know exactly where the line is drawn in Super Rugby or the Rugby Championship.
Right, they know what they can get away with.
Exactly. By bringing in Carley and Dickson from England and Amashukeli from Georgia, World Rugby disrupts that familiarity. It ensures the laws are interpreted through a highly objective external lens.
Okay, I see the logic.
Yeah, Northern Hemisphere referees do tend to interpret the tackle area and the offside line with a different strictness, but that forces the players to adapt. And adaptability to the referee's interpretation is just a hallmark of elite test rugby.
I hear you, but I still wonder if it favors one side over the other. Like Nika Amashukeli, for instance, coming from the Georgian rugby culture, which heavily emphasizes set-piece dominance and scrummaging power.
Well, for sure.
You have to wonder how his specific eye for the dark arts of the front row is going to interact with the Springboks' infamous bomb squad tactics. I mean, it could heavily influence the penalty count late in the game.
That is a brilliant observation. Amashukeli's background means he won't be easily fooled by the subtle illegalities in the scrum. Both teams are going to have to be exceptionally disciplined at the set piece when he has the whistle.
Right. It totally changes the tactical preparation for the coaching staffs. They aren't just analyzing the opposition.
They're analyzing the referee's historical penalty distribution.
Exactly. Which actually brings us to the next layer of this, because as much as we focus on the referee running around with the whistle, relying on just one set of eyes in the modern game is a recipe for disaster. The margins are far too thin, and the players are simply too fast.
Oh, absolutely. It's a team effort now.
The game is ultimately decided by the synergy of the entire officiating team. And before we explore the mechanics of that crucial supporting cast, I want to seamlessly remind you to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in description. And hey, we genuinely want to hear your perspective on this.
Yes, definitely let us know.
Drop a comment below with your thoughts and opinions on this refereeing lineup. Do you think the Northern Hemisphere influence will stifle the game, or is it the right call for neutrality? Let us know. So looking past those main four referees, who is holding the line on the touchlines and in the booth?
Well, the supporting cast is vital to the integrity of the tour, and World Rugby has deployed a really highly experienced group. A standout inclusion on the touchlines is Holly Davidson from Scotland.
Okay, great.
She will be serving as an assistant referee for the opening clashes against the Stormers on August 7th and the Sharks on August 11th. Setting a strong, uncompromising standard on the touchlines early in the tour is going to be crucial for establishing the disciplinary tone for the whole month.
Right, it sets the baseline. Let's talk about the booth, though. We are talking about the TMO bunker, which has essentially become like the lightning rod for rugby controversy over the last 5 years.
Oh, the television match officials are constantly under the microscope.
Huh.
For this tour, we have Andrew Jackson from England acting as the TMO for the opening Stormers game, and Mike Adamson from Scotland in the TMO hot seat for the Sharks game, as well as the first test.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is. These officials are tasked with making split-second decisions on complex situations like grounding, forward passes in the build-up to a try, and dangerous play, all while filtering through 10 different camera angles.
I'm glad you brought up dangerous play, actually, because that naturally leads us to the foul play review officers, the FPROs. The official sheet shows guys like Mike Adamson pulling double duty, but also specialists like Eric Gozens from France and Brett Cronin from Australia acting as dedicated FPROs throughout the tour.
Right.
Let's break down how this actually works. Is having a guy isolated in a bunker really better than the on-field referee making the final call on a high tackle? Doesn't it risk making the game feel, I don't know, disjointed and overly clinical?
It's actually designed to do the exact opposite. To understand the value of the FPRO, you really have to look at what the alternative was.
Okay.
In the past, if there was a suspected dangerous clear-out at a ruck, the on-field referee would stop the game. They would stand in the middle of the pitch for 4 or 5 minutes, debating with the TMO while staring at the stadium's big screen.
Oh, yeah, playing the incident in super slow motion from 5 different angles.
Exactly. It completely destroyed the momentum of the match.
Right. There is nothing worse than 60,000 people scanning in dead silence while the energy completely drains out of the stadium. Players get cold, the tactical flow is ruined.
Exactly. So the FPRO system is an innovation designed to preserve the spectacle without compromising player safety. Now, with specialists like Gozens and Cronin in the bunker, the process is streamlined.
So how does it play out in real time?
The on-field referee can look at an incident quickly. If they determine it meets the threshold for at least a yellow card, they issue the yellow, send the player to the sin bin, and immediately restart the game. The incident is then effectively handed off to the FPRO.
Oh, okay. So the game continues while the trial happens in the background.
Precisely. The player sits in the sin bin, and the FPRO, who is away from the crowd noise, away from the immediate emotion of the players, has the time and the technology to calmly analyze the angles.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they decide if the incident remains a yellow card, meaning the player returns after 10 minutes, or if it needs to be upgraded to a red card. It keeps the game flowing, which is absolutely vital for the entertainment value of a tour like this, while ensuring expert eyes are meticulously reviewing the safety of the players.
When you explain the mechanics of it like that, it makes complete sense. You are removing the immediate emotional pressure from the on-field referee and allowing a specialist to make a clinical judgment, all while keeping the ball in play. It is a really smart system.
And you need those clinical judgments because the environments these officials are stepping into are going to be incredibly intense.
Which is the perfect pivot, honestly. It is one thing to referee these two teams in a sterile, controlled environment. It is another thing entirely when you factor in the geographical reality of this specific tour.
Oh, the venues are wild.
The venues on this schedule are just as intimidating as the players on the pitch. Let's look at where these referees will actually be put to the test.
Yeah, the progression of this tour is fascinating. From a physiological and psychological standpoint, it builds toward a climax in a very unconventional way.
It is a true South African gauntlet before it goes global. Let's trace the path of the tests. After the initial club matches, the first actual test match hits on August 22nd at Ellis Park in Johannesburg.
Right.
Matthew Carley has the whistle for that one, with Dickson and Amashukeli as his assistants, Adamson as TMO, and Gozens as the FPRO. We have to talk about the altitude factor here. Ellis Park sits roughly 1,700 meters above sea level. We always talk about how the thin air affects the visiting players' lungs, but referees are running an average of 7 to 9 kilometers a match.
It is a tremendous physical burden. Carly will be constantly sprinting to keep up with the play, managing the defensive lines, and arriving at the breakdown.
And breathing that thin air?
Exactly. With his heart rate pushing 180 beats per minute and his lungs burning from the altitude, he has to instantly process a highly complex legal situation involving 20 huge athletes.
Yeah.
The fatigue factor for the referee at Ellis Park just cannot be overstated. A fatigued referee is way more likely to miss a subtle infringement or make a controversial call.
That is a total baptism of fire for the officiating crew. Then, a week later, on August 29th, they completely shift environments. They move down to sea level. Nika Amashukeli gets the nod to referee at DHL Stadium in Cape Town, backed by Dickson, Gardner, Gozens, and Cronin.
The air is thicker, the ball travels differently, and the whole crowd dynamic shifts.
And just as their bodies adjust to sea level, the schedule forces them right back up into the high veld for the third test.
Right. September 5th, back to Johannesburg, but this time at the cavernous F&B Stadium. Angus Gardner, our lone Super Rugby Pacific referee, takes the whistle there. He is assisted by Amashukeli and Christoph Ridley, with Cronin as PMO and Gozens as FPRO.
The environmental whiplash alone, altitude, sea level altitude, is exhausting just to map out. But after that third test, the tour schedule takes a completely unexpected, frankly brilliant left turn for the grand finale.
It really does, and it raises a fascinating point about the global expansion of the sport. The final test on September 12th isn't in South Africa.
Nope.
And it isn't in New Zealand either.
It completely leaves traditional rugby territory. The climax of this historic tour takes place in Baltimore, USA at M&T Bank Stadium.
Yeah, that's huge.
Karl Dickson will be taking charge of this final test, with Matthew Carley and Christoph Ridley running the touchlines as assistants. Andrew Jackson operates as the TMO, and Matteo Lipperini from Italy steps in as the FPRO. Bringing this rivalry to American soil is a wildly ambitious piece of scheduling.
It is a strategic move by World Rugby to showcase their premium product in an emerging market. But it fundamentally changes the psychological environment for Karl Dickson and his officiating team.
Wait, how so? A stadium is a stadium, isn't it?
Not at all. I mean, if you referee at Ellis Park or in Auckland, the crowd of 60,000 people understands the deep, intricate nuances of the laws.
Right. They've watched it their whole lives.
Exactly. They roar in unison when a prop collapses a scrum or when a flanker gets isolated and holds onto the ball. The crowd noise acts as a sort of organic pressure on the referee. But in Baltimore, you'll have a massive crowd, but many of them will be completely new to the sport.
Oh, that's true.
They might cheer for a spectacular collision that is actually highly illegal, or just remain totally silent during a brilliant technical turnover.
That is a fascinating point. The organic soundtrack of the game will be entirely different. Dickson won't have the traditional audio cues from the crowd that normally subconsciously influence those 50-50 decisions. It is like taking a well-established Broadway play and dropping the actors in front of an audience that has never seen theater before. The pacing and reactions will be totally foreign.
Exactly. You are refereeing a game, but you're also acting as the adjudicator for a showcase of what top-tier rugby looks like to a new audience.
That's a lot of pressure.
Furthermore, by the time they reach Baltimore on September 12th, these two squads will have played each other, or the South African club sides, 7 times in just over a month. The physical toll on the athletes will be immense.
Oh, absolutely.
The tactical adjustments between the coaching staffs will have reached a highly complex, chess-like state. There will be built-up animosity, unresolved grudges from the previous tests, and just deep fatigue.
The pressure on Karl Dickson to manage all of that built-up history, keep the players safe, and still allow for an entertaining, showcase-level game of rugby is immense. It requires a total masterclass in man management.
The officials will have to be at their absolute sharpest. If they lose control of the discipline early in that Baltimore match, the showcase could devolve into a messy, penalty-ridden affair, which is the exact opposite of what World Rugby wants for its American audience.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of this deep dive. We have unpacked the throwback nature of this grueling 8-match tour. We have analyzed the deliberate strategy behind appointing a primarily Northern Hemisphere officiating crew to govern a Southern Hemisphere rivalry.
Yep.
We have broken down the specific mechanics of the FPRO bunker and how it preserves the flow of the game. And we have mapped out the environmental and psychological gauntlet these referees will face, from the altitude of Johannesburg to the untested waters of Baltimore.
And when you synthesize all of those elements, it leaves you with a really compelling dynamic to watch for as August 7th approaches. The central question isn't just about how the Springboks and All Blacks will play, it is about how they will be allowed to play.
Exactly. Will we witness a stylistic collision between the athletes and the officials? The Springboks and All Blacks intrinsically want to play a game defined by speed, aggression, and calculated risk at the breakdown. But this specific set of referees, Carley, Amashukeli, Dickson, are conditioned to interpret the ruck and the set piece with a distinctly rigorous Northern Hemisphere lens. Will there be friction there? Will the referees dictate the pace? Or the sheer intensity of the rivalry force the officials to let the game breathe?
It is a variable that is entirely out of the coach's hands, but it is a dynamic that could completely define who ultimately lifts the trophy at the end of this series. The team that adapts fastest to the man with a whistle will have a distinct advantage.
That is the defining question of the tour, and it is exactly what we want your take on. Do you foresee a culture clash on the pitch between the Northern Hemisphere interpretation and the Southern Hemisphere style? Or will the sheer talent of these teams transcend whoever is holding the whistle? Get in the comments and let us know your thoughts and opinions on this dynamic.
We read all of them, and it always sparks a great debate.
It really does. And, of course, to ensure you are fully prepared for every tactical shift and storyline of this historic tour, make sure you subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in description. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next